How does one find the intersection between product strategy and go to market fit? And what does that even mean to the average CEO? Well, today I'm going to get insight to those questions and more with Adam Ochstein, who is a startup and turnaround expert. Let's see what buzzworthy insight Adam has in store for us today. Welcome to the show, Adam. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. It looks like sunny from where you're at. Where are you calling in from?
Sunny, warm Chicago, which you can only say a couple months out of the year.
There you go. I just got back from Cincinnati and watched a football game there, and it was 89 degrees. And
I think the Bengals fans are probably going to blame you for Joe Burrow's toe. Then, if you were at the stadium,
I don't know. I'm going to blame the coach and the O-line for that one, as most people do. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
It is. And that's the thing. Like, he was brought in to turn around that team, 7 years ago. And the one thing that keeps plaguing them is their O-line, right?
Yes.
And it just seems like the front office doesn't seem to get it. Like, it's plain and obvious to everyone. And it's funny how we can learn from business in this way, and kind of like what you do. It seems like you're kind of a turnaround artist when it comes to business and stuff. Give the audience just a little taste of like where you come from, where you're coming from, and a little bit about what you've been doing over the last decade or two.
So I grew up right out of college. I grew up on the sales side. So started entry-level sales rep, moved up the ranks into sales leadership, VP of sales of a couple companies, hung my consulting shingle in the late 90s, early 2000s, as the dot-com was turning into the dot-bomb. And then started my own company, focused on, I felt there was an opportunity in the marketplace where HR outsourcing was going to be a thing. Technology was SaaS, models were just starting to roll out, and felt there's an opportunity in the SMB space around that. Bootstrapped and scaled StratX, kind of pivoted a couple times, lastly towards restaurant operators with an HR payroll SaaS play. Ended up selling that company to Toast, which is the largest and fastest growing point of sale provider in the space. Took some time off, took an interim CEO gig with a buddy's company. And then the last 3 years, I've been at Fishbowl in a turnaround effort, which has been a ton of fun.
Awesome. And so when you're coming into some company like Fishbowl, when we're talking about turnaround, usually, I've been doing marketing now and fractional leadership for over 15 years, right? Through the offerings of my company. And it seems like when we come in, the product market fit seems to have been the one thing that was overlooked I've worked with $10 million companies that are now understanding their product market fit, or at least understanding that they need it, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it just is it remnants of the early 2000s of grow at all costs and just get out there and sell and not worry about the strategy?
I think there's a handful of reasons why that happens. One is what you referenced. I think the other one is, listen, private equity is great, and I'm not going to sit here and bash private equity firms, but when you buy in a company and you have a thesis of what you think is right, it's hard to get a private equity firm to deviate from that thesis, and the market's going to dictate and drive product market fit, right? I mean, like, we can sit here pie on this guy and say, oh, this is going to work. But, the customers are going to vote with their feet. And if you're not listening to customers or prospects, then, you're going to be in for a lot of hurt, a lot of trouble. With Fishbowl, it was, OG email marketing platform for restaurants, built the largest email marketing platform in the industry. right? That's when private equity came in and bought. You know, that became less of a defendable moat. And as it became less of a defendable moat, the company didn't evolve and grow and stay ahead of competition. And it became a laggard. And that's really the time that I inherited the CEO seat, was on declining revenue, declining image in the marketplace. It got so bad that the previous CEO changed the name from Fishbowl to Personika, and I changed it back.
Awesome. So I'm hearing product strategy definitely declined, right? Like they just were sitting
There
on the
was no
roll.
product strategy.
There you go, right? And so that's the intersection that we're talking about, right? That we have a product market fit, and once you find it, you still need an evolving product strategy to move us forward. And for our listeners who are in the service-based industries, that's the same thing. Your offering has to evolve with your offer market fit just as much as a software has to evolve with its product market fit, because otherwise it's not scalable, right?
Yeah.
100%.
So
what are the steps that we need to take to recognize when we have even made our product market fit? Like, I feel like product market fit starts as, like you said, a thesis, right? A hypothesis, if you will, right? Like, we think it's this, and then product market fit is testing that hypothesis, in my opinion, right? And then from there, we have to move forward. So how do we identify that we've even achieved product market fit, in your opinion?
If you already have a customer base and you want to evolve and grow, with the times to have product market fit, you have an audience that you can say, hey, we're thinking about building this, or tell us what you need. We're doing this for you. What else can we be doing? And if you start to hear recurring themes over and over again, your clients are going to drive you to where you need to go. Right. If you're a true startup, a lot of time that comes from personal experience, where if I'm starting a company, it's because I have a certain pain point and I'm like, holy shoot. I don't know if I can swear in here.
You can, you go.
Holy shit. Like, why hasn't anyone done this yet? Like, am I the only idiot who feels this pain?
Right.
There's got to be a solution out there for this pain that I have. And then that becomes, the journey towards product market fit. The role that I was interim CEO for a year, it was a founder who had a challenge around policy management and, how do I codify and build these living, breathing documents in a way that they can iterate and solve, around compliance. And, he felt there was a ton of pain, what he felt, and like, there's a product here. And as we started, and I came on board, as we started to test it in marketplace, it became abundantly clear to me, at least, that there wasn't product market fit, that we need to evolve, and, we need to pivot a bit towards where I felt there was a lot of pain, that we can take the nugget or the genesis of what was built and pivot towards where I felt there was pain based on feedback from customers.
Okay,
it
good.
didn't happen.
It didn't happen. What happened? What didn't happen?
Resolute and stubborn and defiant, and I love him dearly, but was just, there's a problem here, and I'm going to continue to ignore what the marketplace is telling me.
And so as somebody who walking in as an interim CEO, it sounds like now, or full-time CEO, either way, you're stepping into somebody else's baby, right? And you just described like the crux of pretty much every CEO of a privately held company that has to deal with an owner, right?
Yes.
It almost goes back to our discussion about football, right? We can talk about Mike Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals and how it's like, why is he so stubborn with not investing in the right things to protect his most valuable assets, right? And you were just talking about the most valuable asset was the core product that got Fishbowl onto the map. And now we need to put assets around it so that it can protect what you called a moat. And for some people that don't know what moat means, it's a little bit of jargon. That means, how do we separate ourselves into a category of one? Right. And so what Adam's talking about is that protection there erodes as you grow into a company that other people are starting to emulate. And if you can't keep that there by creating more assets, more taller buildings, a better O-line, however you want to look at it. And so how do you overcome that barrier to say, hey, listen, business owner, you brought me in here to do this. Love you to death, but we got to do something different if you want different outcomes. How do you approach that?
Data, right? Like, listen, we attended 100 sales calls. Only 10% of them advanced to the next stage where they're even interested in what we were positioning, right? And of those 10, only maybe 1 or 2 closed. To me, there's a lot of data there, right? One would argue that if you had good product market fit, you have 100 opportunities and at least 50 to 60% advance to, okay, this is intriguing, I'm interested. There's a there. And then of that 50, 60%, you're closing maybe 30, 40% of those. So if you have 100 opportunities at the top of funnel and you're closing, 20, 25% of those opportunities, you'd say, okay, there's product market fit. But how do we take that and expand so that, the phone is ringing as opposed to a sales team making outbound calls, and that the light bulb just clicks quicker, and it's you can scale much quicker. That's harder to do today, because every corner of the business universe has been SaaSified now, right? So.
Yeah, I almost feel like we're moving into a space where, SaaS owners seem to understand. I've worked with a few myself on the marketing side of things, and every time I run into a SaaS owner, they feel like they have built the better mousetrap, right? And it's pretty common for me to listen to what their thing will do, but they never truly understand what problem they solve. And now that we're within the age of AI, where there's a lot of information. Like, information is basically, remember we used to say, knowledge is king, right? If you have knowledge, you're there. But now knowledge is commoditized, right? And so now having any knowledge base or information based software is pretty much useless. Right. And so 100%. Now we are truly looking at what service does the software serve, right? And what problem does it solve? And how do you battle the constant need to highlight benefits over outcomes? Because that seems to be one of the things that the programmers are usually like. If you have a developer owner, right? It's like, you can give them all the data, they understand data, but for some reason they can't grasp outcome from the point of view of the user. How do you overcome that with those owners?
Put them in front of customers, right? Like, just get them in front of customers. So like our VP of engineering also runs product, our CTO. He likes being in front of customers, and I push him in front of customers because, there's an element of, I know I'm right. And then when the customer logs on and does a screen share and says, well, no, this is how I'm using it, it doesn't work for me, or, there's a better way to do this. It's humbling. And it's also, the light bulb starts to go off that we're building this for customers. We're not building it for me on my keyboard programming it. And the customer is the ultimate arbiter of, does your software work and is it beneficial? When I was founder CEO of StratX, the company I bootstrapped, I didn't walk around with a sense of arrogance that my product's better than everyone else. We're talking sports, so one of my all-time favorite movies is a sports movie, Bull Durham, you know,
Mm,
Crash tells Nuke at the end of the movie, you have to, have a lot of fear and arrogance, right?
mhm,
So to me, like, there's a fear that, oh, what's around the corner? Who's gonna bolt on my product to make it part of a platform? Which
mm,
competitor's gonna do that? But there's also has to be a certain amount of bravado and arrogance that you're projecting not only internally to your internal customers, but externally to the world. Is that I know that I'm right and this product's great, but in the back of your head, if you're not motivated by fear, then you're just
mm.
going to be column fodder for the next RFP that comes out.
Oh, 100%. I think that complacency is the death of all companies. If you ain't growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's not just in revenue. That's in
no,
exploratory. That is in product development. And I think that people that are in even the service-based businesses were like, well, being a CPA is the same as it ever was. And if you think that, your CPA firm is not going to be going to the next level, right?
no, 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 no. I mean, Thomas Friedman talked in The World is Flat talked about it 20 years ago with the outsourcing of baseline accounting services from a CPA firm, and AI is just going to do that on steroids.
Oh yeah.
If you're not in there providing value, strategic value for your customers, your price points are just going to be whittled down if you're a CPA to nothing.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned, strategy.
Yeah,
Right? Strategy, it requires expertise. You can ask, say, ChatGPT or any of the AI bots, what is a strategy for? They're going to give you whatever has been already out there.
yes,
It's not new strategy. And
no,
it's not strategy that's necessarily for you. It's strategy that's for someone like you. And it's
right,
going to be very high level. And so I think I see a path that is now going to be more SWAS than SaaS. So taking it as software as a service to a software with a service. And this is both for the SaaS companies and for consulting companies, owners that they're listening here. If you're a consultant or an advisory company, B2B specifically, if you're not tech enabled, you're going to be left in the dust regardless
no,
of how good your strategy is, because you have to have that element of technology that helps permeate what you are consulting, right? And on the flip
100%.
side, if you have a SaaS company, if you don't have a service that helps people get this thing integrated properly, you're just another subscription to be reviewed quarterly and decide whether usage is in or out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I envision a world in the next, maybe it's sooner, the next 3 to 4 years, where
Mm-hmm.
SaaS is dead,
Mm,
meaning that I'm not logging into a specific software platform anymore. There's an
mm,
agentic element that I have within my enterprise, and behind the scenes is all this data flowing in from the data platforms that were once SaaS providers are
yes.
now just a data element that's being plugged into my internal LLM that
Yeah.
I've built that is integrated behind the scenes, all these different application layers that I'm not really looking at the UI UX of Fishbowl or another software platform.
Right. I agree 100%. We've been building out BuzzHub, which is a marketing operating system that also has open API on the back for things like Fishbowl and those even HubSpot or
Yeah,
Salesforce sometimes and stuff like that, because you never know, right? You just have it's where all the information flows into. And I think you're alluding to like the executive dashboard, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want a CRM. Well, you don't want a CRM, but you need one, right? You need a marketing operating system to do all the things in the background. I would say 90%, at least 90% of our clients do not log in to our CRM and or our marketing operating system. That's not the point. I don't want them in there. I want them
no,
actually doing the things. And so here's the app. Open the app and do your thing, and then and move on, right? And have that interface module, I think, is what you're talking about. It's kind of like a control module, and the LLM can automatically be tasked with, hey, new information, custom output goes to a dashboard. Now the CEO can sit there and go, I just have to answer these questions my LLM just asked about for this new stuff. Doesn't even have to open up an email anymore,
no.
right? And now you're just like, you're able to do an 8 hours worth of strategic work for your company in the first hour. Now you're opening yourself up to all of the other opportunities a CEO can be when it comes to relationship building and strategic partnerships and all the other things that actually move the revenue needle for a CEO. Because I feel like we get drug into all of the day to day, even though we're not supposed, we have people who are supposed to be doing that. We still have not, a lot of us haven't found that culture of like, hey, listen, you own this. The only time I want to hear anything other than, hey, I'm stuck and this is a possible solution, that's it. Don't ask me to think. Ask me to orchestrate so that I can go out there and find the new opportunities, right? So knowing that, you've done this a few times now, what can you tell our CEOs out there that are struggling with getting their teams to own their part of the puzzle so that they can do that? What's your piece of advice there?
Delegate and block off your calendar so you can't be invited in meetings. Like, I always laugh or chuckle when I speak to a fellow CEO, or I talk to a partner company, and the CEO's calendar is literally blocked off from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with meetings, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
If you're really a good CEO that has optimized their business, you should maybe only have, and this is going to sound like, counter, 1 to 2 meetings a day, max. If you have more than 1 to 2 meetings on your calendar a day as a CEO, then you have not properly delegated and built the infrastructure to run the business, drive the business from an execution perspective. You haven't done that yet. Like, my calendar is internal meetings, like one-on-ones or team meetings. I prioritize customer-facing meetings, current clients or strategic prospects, and strategic partnerships. The rest of my time is thinking time or impromptu get on the phone with someone on my team. Skip down a level, speak to someone on one of my direct reports team as a one-on-one. But the rest of my time is fairly fluid, where I'm not being run meeting after meeting after meeting where I don't get to think. That's like being a gerbil in a cage spinning around, right? Like, I don't want to be that CEO.